August 8, 1943. High on the jagged ridgelines outside the Sicilian town of Troina, American infantrymen of the 1st Infantry Division stood exhausted, filthy, and victorious. For 6 days they had fought one of the most brutal battles the U.S. Army had faced in Europe, against elite German mountain troops, entrenched artillery, and relentless counterattacks. At the center of that victory stood Major General Terry de la Mesa Allen, a commander adored by his men, feared by his enemies, and known across the Army as Terrible Terry. But within days of winning the hardest battle of the Sicilian Campaign, Allen would be relieved of command, not by the enemy, but by his own superior. No court-martial, no public explanation, no medal. Only a quiet order signed by Lieutenant General Omar Bradley. Why would the U.S. Army fire one of its most successful battlefield commanders at the very moment he proved he could win? To understand that decision, we must go backward into North Africa, into the psychology of command, and into a collision between two very different visions of how wars are fought.
The Battle of Troina, fought from August 1 to August 6, 1943, was not supposed to be decisive. To Allied planners, Sicily was meant to be a stepping stone, an opening act before Italy and France. But Troina changed that calculation. German 15th Panzer Grenadier Division and elements of the Hermann Göring Division had turned the mountain town into a fortress. Narrow roads, steep ridges, and interlocking artillery made frontal assault nearly suicidal. Yet Allen's Big Red One attacked again and again, often without rest, often under direct fire. Casualties mounted, units broke, officers collapsed from exhaustion. Allen refused to pull back. By August 6th, the Germans withdrew, not because they were destroyed, but because holding Troina had become too costly. It was the hardest-fought American victory of the Sicilian Campaign. And yet, within headquarters circles, that victory triggered alarm, not celebration.
Terry Allen did not look like a textbook general. A West Point dropout, a former boxer and cavalryman, he was loud, profane, and openly contemptuous of parade ground discipline. He drank with his men, cursed in front of officers, and tolerated behavior that would have ended other careers. But Allen understood one thing better than almost anyone in the U.S. Army of 1942: how soldiers actually fight. After the disaster at Kasserine Pass in February 1943, it was Allen who rebuilt the shattered 1st Infantry Division into a confident, aggressive force. He encouraged initiative, rewarded boldness, and fostered an elite identity. His men adored him. They would follow him anywhere. But to other generals, the Big Red One was becoming something else entirely: a private army, loyal to its commander first and to the system second.
Lieutenant General Omar Bradley represented the opposite ideal: quiet, methodical, disciplined. Bradley believed wars were won through coordination, restraint, and control, not personality. To Bradley, Allen's command style was dangerous. Reports from Sicily described exhausted units, fraying discipline, and officers pushing beyond doctrinal limits. The same aggressiveness that won battles could, under different circumstances, destroy an entire corps. Critics later accused Bradley of jealousy, of insecurity, of ring-knocker bias. Others argued Bradley was simply doing his job, protecting the larger invasion plan. What is certain is this: by mid-August 1943, Bradley and Patton agreed on one thing: Terry Allen could not be allowed to continue commanding the Big Red One into mainland Europe. The decision had already been made, before the public ever learned Allen had won.
By the second week of August 1943, senior commanders reviewing reports from Sicily noticed something unsettling. The 1st Infantry Division had won, but it was fraying. Officers were physically collapsing from exhaustion. Battalion commanders were ignoring corps-level coordination in order to push through objectives. Artillery requests bypassed established channels. Allen tolerated it, sometimes encouraged it, because it produced results. But in modern coalition warfare, results alone were not enough. Bradley's staff logs reveal increasing concern over battle fatigue, not just among soldiers, but among leaders. Several regimental commanders under Allen were nearing psychological exhaustion, yet Allen resisted rotation or relief. This was not insubordination in the dramatic sense, but it was erosion of control. To Bradley, Sicily was a warning. If Allen pushed his division this way into Italy or France, the cost would not just be casualties, it would be operational collapse at the worst possible moment.
Terry Allen believed in one principle above all others: momentum saves lives. To him, stopping to reorganize, rotate units, or wait for perfect coordination meant giving the enemy time to recover. That belief had served him well, from North Africa to Troina. But by Sicily, Allen's division was no longer just aggressive, it was operating on willpower alone. Patton, often portrayed as Allen's ally, privately shared Bradley's concerns. Patton admired Allen's fighting spirit, but he also understood the danger of an elite formation beginning to see itself as untouchable. The Big Red One had become proud, perhaps too proud. Allen himself was exhausted. Witness accounts describe him pacing, sleeping little, making decisions by instinct rather than consultation. What looked like fearless command to the soldiers below looked like burnout to the generals above.
There was no public announcement, no ceremony, no rebuke. In mid-August 1943, shortly after the fall of Sicily, Terry Allen was informed he would be relieved of command of the 1st Infantry Division. The official reason was deliberately vague: for the good of the service. Allen did not protest. He did not rage. According to later accounts, he appeared almost relieved. Bradley's own writings suggest the decision was not punitive, but preventative. Allen was not fired for losing control. He was relieved before control was completely lost. Within months, Allen would return to active command, proof that this was not exile, but intervention. The question remains: was this professional judgment or a failure to tolerate a commander who did not fit the system? That answer lies ahead.
One of the most persistent myths surrounding Terry Allen's relief is that it marked the end of his career. The record shows the opposite. Within weeks of being removed from the 1st Infantry Division, Allen remained on active duty. He was not sidelined, demoted, or reprimanded. Instead, senior commanders, including Bradley, recognized that Allen's condition mirrored a pattern seen repeatedly in the war: successful combat leaders burning themselves out at the point of peak effectiveness. Internal correspondence reflects concern for Allen's health, not suspicion of disloyalty. In modern terms, it was a forced operational reset. This context matters. Commanders who truly lost confidence, like those dismissed after Kasserine, did not return. Allen would. The relief was not about punishment. It was about timing.
In January 1944, Terry Allen was given command of the 104th Infantry Division, the Timberwolves. This was not a symbolic role. The 104th would fight hard in Northwest Europe, crossing into Germany itself. This assignment directly contradicts claims of jealousy or blacklisting. The U.S. Army did not entrust major combat formations to men it feared or distrusted. Allen adapted. He remained aggressive, but witnesses noted greater restraint. The lessons of Sicily had not erased his instincts, but they had tempered them. The system had not rejected Allen, it had reshaped him. By war's end, Allen would retire as a respected combat commander, not a casualty of politics.
So why does this decision still provoke anger? Because it forces an uncomfortable question. Should war reward only results, or also control? Allen's men remembered loyalty.
Bradley remembered responsibility. Critics point to Bradley's later controversies: the missed opportunity at Falaise, the surprise at the Ardennes offensive, and argue Allen would have acted differently. But that is hindsight. In August 1943, Bradley faced a future that demanded predictability. Normandy would require synchronization across armies, nations, and air power. Allen was brilliant in chaos. Bradley was built for systems. The Army chose the system. Whether that choice cost something irreplaceable remains one of World War II's most enduring arguments.
Few accusations surface more often in discussions of Terry Allen's relief than West Point bias. Allen was not a ring knocker. Bradley was. But the wartime record complicates the claim. Bradley himself protected non-West Point officers throughout the war, including men from ROTC and National Guard backgrounds. The U.S. Army of 1943 was hemorrhaging experienced leaders. Ideological purges were a luxury it could not afford. What mattered was not pedigree, but predictability. Allen's strength was improvisation. His weakness was consistency. In a campaign that would soon involve amphibious landings in France, airborne drops, naval gunfire, and multinational coordination, Bradley needed commanders who would stay inside a defined framework, even under stress. This was less about class than compatibility.
George S. Patton admired Terry Allen, and that admiration was genuine. Allen fought the kind of war Patton respected: fast, violent, and relentless. But Patton also understood command politics. Patton had already survived one relief and knew how narrow the margin for error had become. His support for Allen remained private, not public. More importantly, Patton recognized something others did not. Allen was running on empty. Patton believed commanders should be pulled back before they broke, not after. To him, Allen's relief was not betrayal, but preservation. This silence has often been misread as abandonment. In reality, it was alignment: quiet, pragmatic, and unsentimental. Some critics argue that Bradley's judgment should be disqualified entirely, pointing to the chaos on Omaha Beach in June 1944. But Omaha and Sicily were not the same problem. At Omaha, Bradley faced incomplete intelligence, weather-driven delays, and German defenses far stronger than expected. Control was not lost because of aggression, but because conditions collapsed simultaneously. In Sicily, Bradley saw the opposite: a commander overextending success in ways that could fracture coordination later. These were different failures and different decisions. To judge Allen's relief through Omaha is to flatten the complexity of command in a global war. History is not a ledger. It is a series of constrained choices.
By late 1943, Allied planners had reached a difficult conclusion. Elite units were not always an asset. The 1st Infantry Division had earned its reputation through sacrifice, from North Africa to Sicily. But divisions that survived repeated high-intensity combat often developed a dangerous mindset. They began to see themselves as indispensable. Reports from Sicily warned that the Big Red One was absorbing losses faster than replacements could integrate, while veteran officers resisted outside direction. This was not arrogance, it was survival psychology. Bradley understood that Normandy would require divisions to accept orders that felt counterintuitive: pauses, withdrawals, and lateral movements under fire. An elite unit that refused to slow down could fracture the entire invasion.
When Allen was relieved in August 1943, Normandy planning had already begun. Operation Overlord demanded a different kind of command culture, one that prized synchronization over audacity. Airborne drops, naval gunfire, logistics across the channel, and multinational command left no room for improvisation at the divisional level. Bradley was being groomed for Army command. His decisions in Sicily were scrutinized not just for immediate results, but for what they revealed about his judgment. Keeping Allen in command would have signaled tolerance for autonomous action at precisely the moment Allied doctrine was moving the other direction. Allen had won Sicily, but Normandy required something else.
After Allen's departure, the 1st Infantry Division continued to fight at Omaha Beach, in Normandy hedgerows, and into Germany itself. Its success proved a central argument of Bradley's supporters, that no division, no matter how legendary, could be allowed to revolve around a single personality. The Big Red One survived because it was institutionalized. Allen's leadership had shaped it, but the Army believed it must not depend on him. This belief, harsh, impersonal, and deeply controversial, was the foundation of Allied command philosophy by 1944. The war could not hinge on any one man. What Terry Allen did not do after his relief may be the most revealing detail of all. He filed no formal complaint. He appealed to no political patron. He did not seek public vindication. According to contemporaries, Allen understood that he had reached the edge of his endurance. Months of continuous combat command had eroded his health and judgment, even if his instincts remained sharp. In private conversations, Allen reportedly described the relief as necessary, though painful. This was not resignation, it was recognition. Few generals were honest enough to admit when they were near collapse. Allen was.
Omar Bradley never publicly celebrated Terry Allen's relief. In his post-war writings, Bradley framed the decision narrowly, focused on fatigue, discipline, and future operations. He avoided emotional language and never questioned Allen's courage or competence. But Bradley also never revisited the decision. There was no apology, no reconsideration, no public acknowledgement of doubt. For Bradley, the decision was correct because it had to be. Admitting uncertainty would have undermined the authority required to command millions of men. This silence has fueled decades of debate because it leaves room for interpretation where explanation might have closed the case.
Terry Allen remains one of World War II's great contradictions. He was indispensable in crisis, yet risky in continuity. Beloved by soldiers, yet feared by planners. Brilliant in battle, yet unsuited to prolonged coalition command. History offers no simple verdict. Allen was not fired for failure. He was relieved for being too effective in the wrong way at the wrong time. Whether that makes Bradley prudent or overly cautious depends on how one believes wars are truly won. The final answer does not lie in Sicily. It lies in what came next.
In the decades after the war, historians returned to the decision again and again, often divided, rarely neutral. Operational historians tend to side with Bradley. From their view, Sicily was a warning flare. The Allied invasion force was expanding into a multinational, industrial-scale war. Commanders who relied on instinct alone, no matter how brilliant, posed unacceptable risk once the battlefield became system-dependent. Combat veterans and frontline historians often side with Allen. They point to morale, initiative, and the reality that wars are still won by men willing to push beyond doctrine when doctrine fails. What unites both sides is an uncomfortable truth. Both men were right within their own frame. Bradley preserved the system that carried the Allies to victory. Allen embodied the ferocity that made that system work. History did not reverse the decision. It absorbed it.
In August 1943, Omar Bradley was not choosing between right and wrong. He was choosing between two kinds of risk. One risk was replacing a commander who could win impossible battles. The other was allowing a personality-driven division to shape the future of the war. Bradley chose continuity over charisma, control over momentum, predictability over brilliance. Terry Allen did not lose the war. Omar Bradley did not betray a hero. The tragedy, if there is one, is that modern war often has no place for men like Allen beyond the moment they are most needed. That is why this decision still matters, because it asks a question every army eventually faces. When victory depends on one extraordinary man, when do you let him go?